Hello, everyone. This is Shayne Snavely, Veterans for America First, Ambassador for the United States, and also a Vice President for the state of Virginia. I'm here with Jason Cullen. He's running for the New Jersey 3rd District for Congress. Excellent candidate for us, America First, all the normal stuff, strong borders, everything, election integrity, the whole works. Uh, I just want him to start out by telling a little bit about himself, what he's doing, his chances of winning, his competition, and a little bit of that, and how he's planning his campaign and running it. And with that, Jason, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. Well, first, I just want to thank you, Shayne. This is an awesome opportunity, and this endorsement means the world to me. It's truly amazing. I'm blessed to have it. So thank you so much. Um, so it's Jason Cullen running for Congress, New Jersey District 3. This isn't something that I've always wanted to do. It was never my goal or life's ambition to be in Congress. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm not a politician." I'm not. I'm a dad who's concerned about his kid's future. That's really why I'm doing this. I wish that the folks in Washington were doing the right things for the right reason, and I can trust them what they're going to do for my children's future. Because look, it's a weekend, it's a Saturday night. I would have loved to have spent today upstairs watching a movie with the kids, right? But I was out in the freezing cold getting signatures to get onto the ballot, and I got two little girls, and they're the reason why I'm doing this. They're 13 and 16 years old. They're going to be out there in the real world a lot sooner than I would like. And, you know, just watching them grow up, raising them, just watching how this country's been run for years, it's becoming painfully obvious that they're probably not going to inherit the same America that we got, right? That we were lucky enough to have with the same hopes and the same opportunities. And Shayne, if we're not able to preserve that for the next generation, we're going to see a tidal wave of Mondanis and AOCs elected across this country. It's all that free stuff that the left is offering. I mean, it's tempting. And when the cost of living is this high, even the most conservative amongst the next generation starting to think that free stuff starting to sound pretty good. And that's why, as Republicans, we need to be the ones to solve the affordability crisis. Right? We have to lower the cost of housing, healthcare, education, utilities. We have to make America affordable again. And we need candidates that are going to go into Washington and use smart conservative ideas, not growing bigger government. And again, I just wanted to put myself in a position where I could take ownership of my kids' future.
Mhm. Well, that's a big thing, and that's what a lot of people when they get into it, that's just a grassroots person that says, "I just got to step in," and especially the affordability thing. And it's ironic that in Virginia, we just everybody knows we just got slaughtered. The governor's candidate, she got destroyed. We lost 13 House seats, and a lot of that was because of the conservative message that we've been putting out, and that needs to change. I've been talking about it a lot. You and I have talked about that a lot. We can have our core beliefs, but a lot of our core beliefs, especially the more evangelical base and some of the more very conservative base, they a lot of times expect us to tell them, what we're going to do about boys and girls sports, what we're going to do about abortion, and all these other things, and that's what we did here. And to my telling them no, don't do it, because they're going to run on affordability. Because at the end of the day, in Virginia, I don't know about the entire state, entire United States, but it's the that base is really small. It's less than 20%, I would say. And some polls say 13% on full on abortion, but they expect us to do that. And if we don't, they don't want to support us. And what they don't understand is that all the Democrats have to do is run on affordability in their pocketbook, and they don't have to come out and do anything because we're destroying ourselves. And I think with what you and I talked about, your platform and what you want to do is just that, saving America from the fraud, saving America from our enemies, and this border crisis that the president's finally cleaning up. And as you know, I did a hour and a half interview with an ICE attorney that's going to blow that up, because everything the Democrats are putting out about that operation is all lies. And so I think in your state, especially it's blue, it's not even purple. For a good conservative to win, the conservatives got to have policies that everybody wants, not just the base. And they have to have policies, and they have to communicate them well, that it's about their pocketbooks, because at the end of the day, you can do all the polling in a lot of these social issues and these issues that people fire up their base with are way down on the list, at least four or five. And when people go to the polls, they're looking at their pocketbook and rising costs and all these other things. And yeah, they believe in those things, but you have to win independents and you have to win soft Democrats, especially in your district. And I want to hear a little bit about how you're going to do that and what your campaign's about, because I know you're way very supportive of veterans. You just did a video recently talking about the fraud that the illegals are getting and just the fraud altogether. Homeless vets on the street, yet we're giving billions of dollars to illegal aliens, and we're giving billions of dollars being stolen by Somalians in Minnesota and all this other stuff we're hearing. And I have a lot of connections in Washington with my politics, and I'm hearing it's like that in many, many of the Democrat states that there's fraud everywhere, and we need to clean that up. And I think we get people like you that are willing to do that and can speak to everybody, not just the conservative base, especially like I said in New Jersey in your district. It's a must. You have to do that, and you have to be able to attract everybody in the voting bloc, not just conservatives, and especially not just the further right conservatives.
100%. And what's fascinating, so New Jersey and Virginia were on the same trend for the governor's race, right? We both had a shellacking the same night. You guys by 15 points, and we lost by 14 points. And what was really upsetting for us over here in New Jersey, just the year before, Donald Trump closed the gap in New Jersey for Republicans from 20 points down to 5 points. And then the following year, we lost by 14 with Jack. And a lot of it has to do with what you just said, what we're talking about. Affordability, affordability, affordability. So in New Jersey, the Democrats have controlled the state legislature for a quarter of a century. Okay, they're responsible for every single economic hardship in this state, but they still owned and controlled the entire message on affordability.
Hmm.
And there's a reason for that also. Beyond what you and I were discussing, Republicans, we're really good at talking about what we're going to do. We're not really good at the why, right?
Mhm.
Politics is emotional. People don't just vote on their wallet, they vote on how they feel. And the Democrats know that. They are very good at it. But we have to be better. And we have to be better without compromising conservative values.
Mhm.
But we have to focus on the issues that's really driving the kitchen table with the people at home, right? So if they're worried about being able to put food on their table, if they're scared to touch the thermostat in the winter because the utility bills here, that's what they're concerned about. Not all these other little issues that are 5%, 10% issues. So as Republicans, we have to focus on what's important for the people. And to your point, being able to talk to everybody. So we need candidates that can go in and talk to people that might think differently than them and can get buy-in from those people. And
Mhm.
you do that by explaining the whys behind your policies. Because if you're just talking about what you're going to do, that's only going to get you the votes that people that were already going to vote for you. In my district, and in this case for the whole state, but in my district, Republicans only make up 26%. If you do the math on that real quick, it's not enough to win, right? So we need candidates that can go in and talk to the independents and can talk to the Democrats, or at least the moderate Democrats. My district's a D+5, but there's actually more independent voters in the district than the Democrats. And when you have a Republican that's going in not talking about what's really important to them, even if their center maybe lean even right a little bit, if there's no real contrast on the issues that are important to them, they're going to just keep voting with the Democrats.
Yeah, and I argue the same thing here. Everybody that knows me here knows I've been screaming about it, screaming while we got beat. But bigger than that, I've had many roundtables with legislators and party officials 5 months before that's our race, and told them this is a losing message. Your governor candidate is going to lose by 12 to 15 points. They said, "No way, you're crazy." They said that and said you need to get on board because you're going to be looked at as a traitor. I said, "No, I'm not a traitor. What I am is I'm a realist that's telling you that this message is not going to win, and the more you beat it, and just to your point, I said, when you look at tight races, in any race, just about the independents are the ones that decided. And if you lose the independents, what's the point? And you can have all your conservative beliefs, and that's great, and it's admirable, but you can't go and tell everybody that's all you're running on because they're not going to fly for that. And like you said, I've said it, I've said it for years. The base that you might not tell them exactly what they want to hear and be very, very conservative and lose your race are going to vote for you anyway. The amount that don't vote, and usually I'll find it odd that we hit those people with all these conservative values and eliminate everything else, and the Democrats keep beating us. Yet if you look at the polling, a lot of the people, a lot of screamers that our party has chased for years, a lot of them don't even come to vote anyway, and that's the one of the ironic things. Some of your biggest flag flyers and screamers that we have to have these our Christian conservative values. And if you don't talk about that and you don't run on all that, then we're not going to vote for you. Well, half those people never vote, no matter what you do. Even if you told them everything they want to hear, they don't come out for some reason. And there is another thing that you and I have talked about before is we need our party to also understand that message. And the party itself has to start helping the candidates along the way, and they have to deviate from the hardcore conservative message and understand that we're voting. The people that voted for us are everybody, and the people that we're going to be governing if we get elected are everybody. It's not just that base. And so the Democrats have become, like you said, very good at that because they talk about the things that they know the people they do polling. I don't know how come the Republicans don't do the right polling or whatever it is, because the Democrats have the same kind of polling, but it seems that they do the polling and they say, yeah, so you talk about our race compared to yours up there. Exactly. Abigail Spanberger didn't have to do anything but talk about affordability, and her campaign thing was affordability, and then she gets in office, and the people that really put her in office were the Northern Virginia people, but she also lost a lot of well, she got a lot of our conservative base in Southwest Virginia that didn't want to hear the message of not something about their pocketbook because they're starving. The economy was crap, and ironically, when she gets into office, they've got over 50 tax bills, and those tax bills hit the very people that voted for her because Northern Virginia was a large block of her votes, and that's the ones that are going to be affected most by the taxes. But
Right.
they understand that they run on affordability and they can win because if you look at any polling, affordability is the top, the pocketbook. And for years, we looked at elections when we go to the analysis after the fact. And the number one issue they went and they voted because of the economy in their pocketbook. And so
Right.
there's no problem in talking in your politics about your beliefs and what your core beliefs are, but you also have to convince people that you can have those beliefs and still speak to them and still work for them as well. And that's the big problem. That's the problem with our parties in a lot of the areas in the country, and a lot of problem with our conservative candidates is they don't understand or comprehend, and evidently they don't have good enough advisors to tell them what to deviate from because all they have to do is still have the core beliefs, talk about those, talk about their faith, and talk about all that. But then they have to convince the people that they're not going to just govern on that, and they're going to actually govern for everybody. And I think the message will be much better received.
100%. And even if you're not talking about those specific hardcore conservative issues, that's still a part of you. But to your point, you have to reach these other folks as well. And if you can't get in there as the conservative, and people aren't going to come out and vote for that conservative candidate because, well, they're not always talking about this, and this. They're not specifically running on these things. I'm not going to come out and vote now. But then the Democrat gets in, and they're going to vote against every single one of your interests. So they're cutting off their nose to spite their face. That's never made sense to me at all. Never made sense. And
Yeah.
then about coming out as well, what happens is too in the primary, which is the most important time to vote, and nobody comes out.
Mhm.
Our last race for governor, Republican primary, 8% of registered Republicans came out. And then, 80% complains about who's the nominee come November every
Right.
time. All right. If people aren't coming out, the county committees and township committees pick the establishment handpicked candidate every single time.
Mhm.
And at that point, if that's the person that wins, that establishment candidate, even if we flip the seat, little to nothing's going to change anyway. So I'm trying to find a way to really energize people to come out and vote for the primary. That's the only way we're going to make any changes in Washington, even at the local level, the state level. We have to get the grassroots conservatives. There's enough attorneys, there's enough lawyers in Congress. We need to start electing the pissed off parents that want to fight for their kids and fight for the next generation.
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there of getting people to come out. That's the big thing, and what you hit another big point with the committees that, and I've been screaming that here as well. I'm becoming one of the loudest voices of actually going against my party with their politics because it's I'm sick and tired of getting slaughtered, and then after we get beat and the Democrats start enacting all the crazy policies that we knew they were going to do, then our politicians, a lot of them, not all of them, and there's many good ones. I'm not saying everybody, and that's why when I hit my party here and have been screaming it loud and pretty mean about it, because I'm pissed. You know, when we do that, they hold us down. When we actually say we're going to, they call us traitors. They call us, well, you're just a Democrat in disguise or something, you know. Now, and I believe that at this point, with if our respective parties in the states and stuff don't support us, then it's almost better in a way, especially in blue or purple states, because if they're not going to deviate from that message, we need to run our own campaigns. We need to get our own followers because the committees aren't going to help us anyway. And what they're going to do is just what you said. They're going to prop up somebody that is a crony or something like that, and then they actually make it harder for you to even get a nomination. So I'm a believer, and that's one of the things I'm here starting here grassroots, and I'm loud about it. Is forget the party. If this is what the parties are going to do and keep getting us slaughtered, then we run our own party. We start our own party per se, and we get good candidates. We recruit them just like with the Veterans for America First. That's one of the things we're doing. We're actually going around recruiting people and good people that understand this message that we're talking about and understand the losing ways of the past and are willing to deviate. And if the party doesn't want to come along with us, we're probably better off anyway, and we because what we have to do is speak to those voters because I can tell you this in Virginia, the voters are so done with the Republican Party at this point, and we just elected a new chair today. I hope that, and I know him well, and I know his heart, and I know what he's talking about doing because I've had many conversations. We have a chance to change that, but if it doesn't change, and especially like in your state, some of the stuff I've looked at, I don't know that they're willing to change in a lot of these things. Then hey, we're probably better off, and we get our own voters out because the voters are sick and tired of our party anyway, and that's one of the reasons they didn't come out in 2025 for Winsome Sears and the rest of our ticket because they were so disenfranchised by our own party, not by the Democrats, but our own party. And then, like I said, then they come screaming that oh my God, look what they did. Well, yeah, they did it because you just gave them the keys because you're not advancing with the times.
Absolutely. And I think you raised an interesting point there. Depending on the county, some are run better than others, but maybe do we really even want the party support at this time, right? Because of what they've been doing, how they've been running the party. Now we also have a new chair as well for the state NJGOP, and I'm hoping she's going to do all the right things and she's going to make the changes to the party that we need. She's talking a lot about unity, which is great. We need unity really bad in this state. There's so many different factions of Republicans across the entire state that are at each other's throats. When I first decided, yes, you know what, I'm going to actually do this, and I'm trying to talk to all these different groups. Almost every group that I talk to told me not to go talk to every other group.
Mhm.
That's not going to work. We're not going to win, especially in a blue state. There's not enough of us. So yes, we need to get the independents, but we need all of the Republicans too. And if everyone's kind of divided, everyone's at each other's throats, even picking up the independents, it's not going to be enough. We have to come together united as a party. And like I'm hoping the new chair is going to be able to do that. I mean, she's talking about it a lot now. That seems to be the message she's putting out there. And it's going to have to come from the local levels too, right? The,
Yeah.
the township committees, the municipal chairs, the county committees, and the county chairs. Everyone's got to be on the same page, and it can't be just from the top down. It's got to come from the bottom up too. And I just hope there's enough good people in the party that want to actually do this and fix things so we can start. I'm tired of losing in this state. I want to start winning elections
Oh,
and with the
yeah,
right candidates.
yeah.
Hopefully, hopefully they're tired of losing too.
Yeah, and that's when I mean, we're on the same page, and we need. That's why I say we need more people like you. We need to go recruit people like you. We need to run the candidates, support the candidates. And I even say, forget about giving the party money, give the candidate the money because the party doesn't deviate it out right anyway, and or divvy it out anyway. So, but I've always admired, and then they call me, well, you might, what do you like the Democrats? I admire how they run their campaigns because just like you said, the Republican Party stays fractured, stays at each other's throats, backstabs each other. And one thing you can say about the Democrats, love them or hate them, is when they get behind a cause, when they get behind a candidate, everybody gets on board. It doesn't matter about anything else. It's about winning. And that's why we keep getting beat because they do not care about anything else but winning, and they don't care if like Jay Jones. Jay Jones came out with all the bad Texas stuff. Well, the party
Right.
didn't deviate from him, and everybody, the Republicans, beat that to death and lost votes because all they did was talk about that. How about tell us what you're going to do? How about telling us your policies? But that's one of the things in our race last year. The governor candidate basically her whole campaign was about boys and girls sports, boys and girls locker rooms, abortion, and Abigail Spanberger and the Democrats are crazy and liars. Well, nobody wants to hear that crap except the far right base. And people say, well, you say the far right. That's I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm saying the furthest right base is the ones that keep getting these candidates to believe that's what they need to say. And like I said, I go back to the consultants. What kind of consultant do you have that's sitting here watching you do that and not saying, hey, this is a losing message? And so that's the key. If we're going to start winning in these states, especially blue and purple states, we have to understand how they operate, how they work, and we have to start adapting to those policies. Go back to the voting. You know, Republicans have complained and complained and complained about voting season, mail-in ballots, and all this stuff to the point that they won't come out and vote early, and they won't come out and do all these other things. And that's another thing the Democrats get ahead of us on. And I've argued, and I hope that your people will do the same, is that what I've been arguing to our conservative voters that say voting day is voting day, and that's the only time I'm going to vote. What they don't realize, and I've been screaming it, is that if you go out and vote the first day, the first week of voting, it doesn't matter if it's a voting season, if it's 45 days, whatever. Those are the rules now. That's another thing. Stop complaining about the rules and then getting beat some bad because you won't play within the rules because you don't believe in the rules, to where you're never going to be able to change the rules because you're never going to win anyway. And
Right.
but what they don't understand is that when you go out and vote early, the campaigns, and that's why we need to start explaining things to voters instead of this culture war crap. The party needs to take charge. The candidates need to understand. They need to get consultants that help them understand if they don't understand. And we have to start talking to the voters and getting them to understand that if you come out and vote, I don't have to spend money on text anymore. I don't have to spend money on emails anymore. I don't have to spend money on mailers to you anymore because I know, and that's what I think if we start educating the voter more, then they'll understand the reasoning. And it's actually if you ran it right, like the Democrats have been doing, if you run it right, you can actually use these rules to win, not complain about them because you cut them out. You vote the first week. Well, now we know you voted and we're done and we don't have to spend any money on you. We can allocate that money to going after the independents and the Democrats instead of trying to
Exactly.
alienate the Democrats and the independents.
Right. So we're waiting at the last minute trying to get those last few Republicans out. If that's the rules of the game now, why wouldn't we take advantage of it? We're never going to beat them at their own game if we're not playing the game, to your point.
Yeah.
I'm going to be very aggressive with early voting. I'm going to be aggressive with mail-in ballots. Those are tools in the toolbox. Yes, when this all first came out, I was very much, it's election day kind of guy. But once I really sat back and I looked at how the Democrats were able to take advantage of that, why aren't we doing that too? We have nobody to blame but ourselves. And something else you touched on that I want to come back to because I think is really important with the way the Republicans are campaigning. Typically, what you said was people are kind of sick of the campaign being why not to vote for the other person,
Yeah.
right? Why don't you tell me why I should vote for you? People are so sick and tired of that. Um, in my race in the primary, I had a conversation with the other two candidates about that specifically. So we're not going to take spending our time and money attacking each other, trying to destroy each other. We're going to save that fight for the Democrat. It's also going to help with unity come the end of the primary, right? It's going to be a lot easier for those two candidates to come behind the third who won. We're also going to need the supporters of those candidates. So what we're going to do in the primaries, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to make the best case for myself. Here's why you should vote for me. Not the other two guys suck, and here's why. Right.
Yeah.
I want to put out my policies, my ideas, and I want to show them that I have the better plans. I have the better ideas. And I think that's what voters are hungry for. I think that also turns them off from coming out to vote, especially in a primary where they really not motivated to come out anyway. Just hearing more of the same, it's not going to work. So I think also by giving them something different and giving them, hey, listen, we want to make sure you guys have a real choice. You can make the most informed decision possible and maybe set a standard for how primaries should be run. That might bring some of these people back into the fold. I think that's going to be really important to try to do.
Yeah, 100%. And let's get into a little bit, just sort of wrap it up so we can really get into your some of the things you want to do and your opponent that if you I'll say when you win the primary your opponent what you need do you need from the people, not the party. I mean, if the party wants to come along, that's fine, but what do you need the people to do for you? How can they get a hold of you? Tell us a little bit about your background that we haven't really covered much, and then we'll wrap it up.
Absolutely. So, like I said, so again, never wanted to do this before, but I feel the need to do that, right? I had to elevate myself, put myself in a position to take ownership of my kids' future. What I do in the real world, I'm in sales and marketing, a little bit of account management as well. I do it's in retail, and consumer packaged goods. I do have some chain accounts like 7-Elevens and Wawa's and whatnot. But the majority of my business, it's mom and pops, it's small business owners. So I work with them. I pull reports on the trading areas for them to look at, what their competition's doing, what's going on in the market, and help them to develop business plans to increase sales and increase profitability. So I'm very focused on small business. That's going to be something very important to me. The small business in my family. So that's something that I think is a value. A small business makes up the vast majority of business and jobs in the country, and those guys are getting squeezed real hard right now. And when I saw what happened to them in COVID, absolutely disgusted me. That's what got me even more involved into politics, watching what they were doing to these small businesses. Tom's hardware store had to shut down, but Home Depot could stay open. Right? It's all about the powerful corporations that are funding all of the candidates on both sides. Right. Um, so to get involved, what I really need people to do is, and this is a grassroots campaign, and I know, obviously funding is it's important, right? But I know not everyone has the means right now, right? I mean, I'm making my phone calls. It's very tough. Actually, in Jersey, it's really tough with the fundraising after the last election, and I've heard it's the same in Virginia as well,
Mhm.
with the fundraising after what happened last year. So what folks could do if they can't get involved financially, even if it's just sharing social media posts, word of mouth, knock on doors, make phone calls, do text messages, and get people out to vote. That's going to be the most important thing. Because anything that I would spend the money on is getting the message out there. Well, if you don't have the means right now to help to donate for me to get the message out there, you be that mouthpiece. You help deliver that message. Again, whether it's social media, it's talking to your neighbors, talking to your friends. That's one of the most important things anybody can do right now.
All right.
Um, as far as the district, it's mostly independents, so it's having the right message for the right people, right? It's not about the one or two little main issues for the base. Yes, I'm conservative. I'm very conservative. But just because I'm not going to be talking every second about some of those small issues doesn't mean that's not who I am at my core. But I have to focus this campaign on affordability. The Democrats are going to do that. My Democratic opponent's going to do that. And I need to explain to people he spent 3 decades in the state legislature making New Jersey less affordable. And now he's going to run on affordability. And I need to expose that. I need to. It's amazing in New Jersey you would have to do that. But if there's not the right message going against what the Democrats are saying, people are going to buy into that. And that goes back to what I was talking about earlier with Republicans. We need to explain the why.
Mhm.
So let's say the economy is picking up this year with the big, beautiful bill kicking in, tax cuts, cuts to regulation on small businesses, the more domestic energy production, foreign investment coming in. the economy is going to start picking up. People are going to have more money in their pocket. Their businesses are going to be doing better. But we need candidates on the Republican side that can explain why they have more money in their pockets, why their businesses are doing better, or the Democrats are going to control the narrative again.
Yeah. And you hit it right on the head about the independence and not fighting with your other candidates because I've been fortunate enough to be all over this country for a lot of stuff and a lot of some of the highest levels of politics, governor's races, with people that ran for governor in different areas before they ever even announced congressional races. And I can tell people that without a doubt, one of the biggest things I've heard is just like I said about Democrats, they get together and they rock and roll it as a team. The biggest thing I hear from voters, especially independents, is they're sick and tired of people trashing each other in their own party. I'm doing it now because I'm screaming it because somebody has to say it because nobody wants to talk about it. But that's fine because I'm the guy that can do it. I'm not running for office, and I want the voters to know what the problems are and maybe what we can fix it. But I can tell you, going out and voting for a candidate, they're sick and tired of hearing people talking bad about each other. They want, just like you said, and they're sick and tired of the core hot button issues. They want to know what you're going to do for them and what you're going to do for their pocketbook. And more than that, they want to know what you're going to do for them in their district, not just go be a politician, because that's another thing a lot of them do. They don't go and actually go in office and actually do things for the people in their district. The districts are different. The people's needs are different. And I think a politician like you, a candidate like you, that's going to run and actually talk to the people about what can I do for you. And actually, I'm a big thing. When I ran for state senate last year, one of my biggest things was this is the people seat. This isn't the person's seat. And you mentioned about the guy that had been in the state legislature forever. Look, it's not his. These are the people seats, and the people need to start thinking that way and stop listening to this stuff with these career politicians that haven't done anything for them. And then every time they come we've heard that every time they come up to get elected, they start talking about the issues again, but then they never do anything. And I think that you'll do well. I think that you're the kind of person, like I said, that we need all over the country, and that's one of the things we're doing with Veterans for America First. And one of the things I like to do here is do a longer interview than just talking and saying, "Hey, we're endorsing you. Give us your platform and hi, bye, and see it," because we see who you are here. We see the things that you believe. We can talk back and forth. It makes you more of a person to the people versus a lot of times they don't get to see you, but a short period of time. You get up and you say a few things, and then the next kind of gets up and says a few things, but they don't really get to know you that well. And so I think this is a good opportunity, albeit a little longer than normal on videos. It gets the people to know who you are, what you're about, and how you really think. And I think that you have an excellent chance, and we're going to be behind you. And I hope everybody else will get behind you, including your party, by the way. We'll see how that goes. And I wish you all the luck. And Veterans for America First is glad to have you. Uh, as you know, we've talked a good bit before this interview for days, over a period of time. And I consider you a friend. I want to follow you and help you and do all the resources that we have with Veterans of America First and to continue to help you throughout your career if you stay in politics. So I'm glad that we got this done and that you're going to run a race that I think you can win. And I just appreciate even being able to talk to you people like this.
Allison, thank you very much. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think you're doing this the right way because people get to hear everyone that you do this interview with. You get to see them interact as a person. It's not given a 4 or 5 minute speech. All right, see you later. This is a great format. I think it's fantastic you're doing this, and I'm really truly grateful you gave me the opportunity to do this, so I can get my message out there, so people can get to know me a little bit better than just again seeing my website, seeing something on social media. I do a lot of videos on there, and you're going to see a 30 second, 45 second video. So this was a great format, and I really truly appreciate it.
Wonderful. And well, best of luck. And like I said, I'm going to be keeping up with you because we text regular anyway. And that's another thing I'm doing that I really believe is important is keeping in touch with everybody. Everybody that we endorse, everybody that we do these videos with, I become friends. I consider you a friend, and we're building an army here with this. Win or lose, we're building an army, and of support to where we can rally each other around the country. And that's the other big thing. This is not local for me. This is around the country. So now we can build an army of friends that you can make change that way. So just I'll end it with that, and I'm gonna keep up with you, and I hope everybody else does, and I hope the people, especially independents and Democrats that you need to win, I hope they understand that uh, you're way better and you're going to do way more for them than a career politician that's been in politics forever and probably hadn't really done a lot for people. If you ask my opinion, I didn't even looked him up, but unless he's an exceptional guy, he's going to be probably one of 20% or less of people that actually did what they said they were going to do. So with that. I just appreciate you, and we'll be following you and see you soon.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. Thank you, Shayne. Have a great night.
Sure.